Speaker.
The question is that the motion be agreed to.
Mr. Speaker.
Grant Robertson.
Never a truer word said, Mr. Speaker. That member's time surely has expired. He devoted a large chunk of his speech to the promotion of various mayoral candidates around the country. Just to fill in one little gap there, Justin Lester, the most excellent Labor-endorsed mayoral candidate in Wellington, has billboards that are yellow and black. They would be the colours of Wellington, the city in which he is running. I would expect the Minister of Finance to know that, given he's resided in Wellington for a very long period of time. But he didn't mention one mayoral candidate in Wellington who I think will be extremely disappointed that she wasn't mentioned by the Minister of Finance, given I believe he's endorsed her. That's right, Joe Coughlin. We didn't hear about the colour of her billboards, which I'm not sure. I think actually they're actually green and red, I think you'll find. They're actually green and red, Joe Coughlin's billboards, but look, it's fine. If the Minister of Finance's endorsement in Wellington will be hugely helpful to Joe Coughlin to scratch herself up from 7th or 6th place in the order. As for Phil Goff in Auckland, a man who I think most people would be laying bets will be the Mayor of Auckland, but feel free, the National Party, to put up a third candidate. Already got two on the go. Mark Thomas, a refugee from Wellington, up there as well. Actually, do we count John Polino? Does he count as a National Party? Well, he's Cameron Slater's candidate, so that's 3. They've already got the 3 national candidates there. So Phil Goff well and truly in charge of that. But, Mr. Speaker, enough about local government. Mr. Speaker, the budget of 2016 got off to a bad start. It actually got off to a bad start the day before, when Paula Bennett, desperate because she knew that the budget did next to nothing for housing, decided to make her own budget announcement. Bill English didn't know about it. He was remarkably relaxed when he heard about the fact that Paula Bennett was promising to pay $5,000 to people to leave Auckland. It was a little confusing policy because she also had another policy to pay people $3,500 to go to Auckland. So people were potentially getting themselves on the merry-go-round of that money, but in the end, the success of that pre-budget announcement that Bill English didn't know about was for 12 people. 12 whole people to take the opportunity to take the $5,000 and move out of Auckland. Mr. Speaker, when New Zealanders take a look at a budget, what they are looking for is, does this budget help them and their families and their communities to grow and to prosper? The budget is the government's chance to say, here are the things that are important for New Zealand to go ahead in the next few years. And we look at the core areas that you do in any budget. What kind of jobs are going to be created? What kind of housing is there going to be for people? What will the education system look like? How will the health system be supported? The building blocks of opportunity, the things that New Zealanders look to the government to say, we're trying to build a good life for us and our families, will the government be there alongside us? And they take a look at the 2016 budget, Mr. Speaker, and they see nothing. It does not fix the housing crisis. It cuts health and education in real terms. It does not do anything to support New Zealanders in the transition to a changing working environment and the future of work. And what's more, Mr. Speaker, when we look ahead, the grand ambition of the government, once naming itself as ambitious for New Zealand, is that wages, average wages, won't actually keep up with inflation for the next 2 years. The share of the economy that working people get is descending. Andrew Bailey needs to catch up with the budget, economic and fiscal update, have a read of it, and you'll see wages not keeping up with inflation for the next 2 years. That's how little the National Party know about what's going on. Just how out of touch they are is they don't even realise what their own budget says. But, Mr. Speaker, when New Zealanders look at that, they'll be saying, and Bill English says he's concerned about the people who get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, he should be concerned about those people because they're working harder and harder and not feeling like they're getting ahead. And the reason for that is that the share of the economy that working people get is declining under this government. We know that. Wages are not keeping up with the cost increases we're seeing in housing. And then we find out in the days after the budget that the level of inequality, of income and asset inequality in this country is getting worse. Statistics New Zealand come out and tell us the top 10% of New Zealanders have 60% of the wealth, up from 55% just a few years ago. That's the New Zealand that this government is creating. One where those at the very top do better, and those hard-working New Zealanders, as Bill English says, getting up at 4 in the morning, are struggling to see their way forward. And this budget, Mr. Speaker, did next to nothing for them. When New Zealanders are looking at a budget like this, what they should have seen was a plan to fix the housing crisis. The biggest political issue facing New Zealand today, and the budget was largely silent on it. A little bit after the budget, it turns out the government had a panic and decided they better create a $1 billion infrastructure fund. It took them 3 weeks to work it out. Sensibly, there was one sensible thing about that process. They didn't tell Nick Smith till the very end. That was the sensible bit of the process. So they told him a couple of days before the end. They didn't even bother to tell the councils that they wanted to work with, and most of the councils looked at it and said, this will get us next to nothing. What that package should have been, Mr. Speaker, was a simple and plain thing: to have a government that will be a partner in building affordable homes. Because Bill English in his pre-budget speeches acknowledged only 5% of the homes built in New Zealand in the last 10 years have been affordable homes. That translates to about 500 homes in Auckland being affordable when we need thousands and thousands. So the comprehensive housing plan that Labor has put forward is what should have been in the budget. 100,000 affordable homes built over the next 10 years. Making sure that we actually have an affordable housing authority that's got the mandate to get in there to work with councils, iwi, developers to create good quality affordable housing right across New Zealand. Somehow in the middle of his speech, Bill English started talking about rebuilding Dunedin. If only that's what he was going to do. If only that's what he was going to do, because actually, out of our Affordable Housing Authority project, we want to do the kind of urban regeneration that communities like South Dunedin, where I grew up, actually need. And that's what we'll do. Making housing central to building strong communities. That's what Labor's Kiwi Build and Affordable Housing Authority policies are about. And then we need to make sure that we're providing adequate state housing. And we heard Stephen Joyce come out with his tweet to say we're not taking a dividend from Housing New Zealand. That happened in the wake of the budget as well. Next year, I understand, Mr. Speaker, that Stephen Joyce's Twitter account will be included as an unspecified fiscal risk in the budget, because if he's going to make $90 million tweets, he's going to get right in there alongside EQC and a few other things that are already in that category, Mr. Speaker. But they needed to have a commitment to state housing. They needed to have a real commitment to emergency housing, and that wasn't there. And then we come to health, Mr. Speaker, where we have a continuation of the underfunding of health that has been a feature of the budgets of the National Party. We've now reached $1.72 billion worth of underfunding right across New Zealand. That's having an impact. And then we look at the education system, where remarkably the government chooses in this budget to say we will freeze the operational grants of our schools at the very time our schools need more support to be helping to prepare young people for the future. Well, Mr. Speaker, the good news is that in education, the Labor Party has a plan too. 3 years free post-secondary school training and education for every New Zealander, recognising that now and into the future, the kind of skills that people get need to be developed and retrained and constantly upgraded. And we're going to upgrade careers advice in school, because every New Zealander deserves the right to have a career plan, to be supported to make the decisions for what they will do next. No New Zealander should be leaving school without that plan, and that's what you get from this government is 87,200 people aged between 15 and 24, not in employment, not in education, not in training. More people, Mrs. King, than the population of Palmerston North. 87,200. Nothing in this budget to deal with that, Mr. Speaker. So if the budget was building the opportunity for New Zealand, it would have Kiwi Build in it. It would have health funding that keeps up with population change and backfills what's been let go in the last few years. It would have support for a strong education system, both in our compulsory sector and giving opportunity for training and education past them. And it would have support for our regions to start developing the jobs, the decent work of the future. They are the building blocks of opportunity. They are the things that would be in a Labor Party budget. But we look at what's in front of us today, and it is a tired budget.
I'm sorry to interrupt the member, but his time has long expired.